Hello, Groovers. I have just bought a pair of very slightly damaged Alexander McQueen trousers and a pair of Vivienne Westwood Lee collab jeans, which I got for like £8. I mean, I don't know why they were so cheap. I was bidding, right? So I was the highest bidder at £5 something, and there were a few hours left. Now, I've got a habit lately of losing things because my bids aren't high enough. So I thought, well, I need to get because I'm not going to sit there and watch. Nobody, who does that? Nobody. It's stupid. And you'd still miss it, actually, because somebody else can come right really close to the end. So I put my maximum bid up to £12. I thought, well, that's just a bit over 10. People do tend to round up. So like you could put 10.50. Do you see what I mean? Because somebody might think, oh, I'll pay a tenner for them. That's all right. Anyway, I got them for 8 something, which I'm really pleased about. The Alexander McQueens I got for under £20. And there was something else I bought today, but I can't remember what it is. But yeah, how cool. And the thing I've noticed since I've been selling my stuff on eBay, you can really get the feel of when is a good time to buy and when is a bad time to buy. And I'm surprised nobody's shopping today. I seem to be the only one who's shopping today because I keep winning things, which makes me feel really, really good. Anyway, also last night I did my first stencils on clothes, and I made a couple of cutaway t-shirts out of old t-shirts, so a bit like dancewear. You remember Pineapple Studios? You used to get those kind of over vests in the 80s, like a sort of baggy crop top. I made a few of those, and so they're looking all right, actually. I mean, they're not high end, and what I've found is really, really tricky for me is getting a high-end DIY look on your own. What the big companies do when they want that kind of feel about something or that look about it, they actually have them made in factories. So you've got all the sort of factory trimmings, the overlockers, and there's something about a well-made, well-cut pattern with good fabrics that is a giveaway when you look at an item. I just put a dress up actually in the shop, and it's completely and utterly handmade. I mean, it looks divine, but it's handmade. You can tell it's handmade. And the keys are bits of hand stitching, because there are parts when you make a gown that you have to hand stitch when you're turning things inside and outside and whatever. So that, and you can see that's done by hand. So that's a dead giveaway. Very raw edges. There's always a few raw edges you can spot. A factory-made item will never have raw edges. They're always, done on the machine. And it's quite interesting, actually, to feel the difference. And I do think, even though I'm a recycler and I make a lot of handmade stuff, and I'm going to launch my collection in September, which will all be handmade in my flat with my sewing machine, there is something slightly different about an item that is made high-end in Italy. It's so minute. The differences are so minute, but they're quite telltale, I think. So there's more tailoring. That's often a giveaway, tailoring. So you've got, darts and seams and just that sort of attention to detail. Of course, you can do that as well when you hand sew. But when you start doing that on your own with a sewing machine, it adds a lot of time and a lot of effort because you're not mass producing. And you won't get the money back. If you're doing it for a financial gain, you're not going to get that money back. You will not get the hours in. I mean, if you look at something like Sewing Bee, where they make something in 5 hours, the stuff they make, if you paid yourself as an experienced seamstress £20 an hour, you're going to have to charge £100 minimum before you've even, added on anything else. And actually 5 hours is really an underestimate because, these people are going against the clock. So it's much more rushed. But if you're talking about a day's work, shall we say. So how much do you pay yourself for a day's work, and then you've got to pay the fabric, you've got to pay for the fabric and your overheads and your rent and all of these things. So it becomes sort of less and less practical. I've been really thinking about this, because I wanted my label to be high end, but I don't think it can be. I literally am struggling with how I make handmade items with class and panache. And, selling on eBay is obviously not a good way to do it, because eBay doesn't really deal with high end. It deals with high end second hand, because that's where I've just bought my Alexander McQueen trousers and my Vivienne Westwood jeans. But do you see what I mean? You can second hand designer items are usually quite they get quite a lot on eBay. But when I'm just telling you that I've got two things under 20 quid, you start thinking, well, maybe not then. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's not the place to sell. So the other thing, when I painted onto the stencil, painted a stenciled design, right, of a beatbox, which I really like, which I kind of want to be my signature stencil. And I did a skirt and a dress with just this one yellow stencil on it. And I did a pillowcase. You wouldn't want to lie on it because it's acrylic. It's quite hard, dries, quite hard. So you can definitely already see that, this is not high end. It's got that DIY ethic, because high end, they would just print it. It would be printed on. You would know it was posh, because it costs a lot to print bespoke fabrics. It costs much more than, me buying a shirt and printing with a stencil, a hand-printed stencil. See what I mean? So yeah, I'm just figuring out pricing today. I mean, you obviously want the money back for the item that you bought, and you want your time that it took to do it. It doesn't take very long to do a stencil, but you're starting to get, upward of between £10 and £20 just to make it worthwhile doing. There are some other exciting things I'm looking at though as well. So printing not with stencils, but printing with other things which look quite exciting, and maybe they will look more high end. I don't know yet because I haven't done them. Anyway, in other creative news, so I was going to go to uni to make musical instruments, and I didn't get the funding, and it's going to cost me $14,000 for the year, and I was going to max out my credit cards, and I just think that is such a bad, it's such bad business to do that, because I won't be able to work at all. At the moment I work part-time and it's lovely. That's my, it works with my health conditions. It works with my mental health as well, and my anxiety and all of those things. And a lot of the things that I do, once they're set up, I can sort of sit back and relax. Whereas if I was going to uni full time and trying to do all of that, run a business so that I could pay for the uni fees, I would definitely, over stretch my capacity. And I've been thinking about it all week. But I'm applying for some part-time courses. Now, it's such a shame they don't do the music instrument making course part-time. It's really disappointing. But they do several fine art and printing courses part-time. And there's a foundation course part-time at Western College. So I'm applying for that today. And the other thing is it's actually online part-time. So I'm applying for that one, and then I'm applying for the one where you go in, it's not online, the same thing, but not online. One is, I think, in total over the year, about £1,600. Well, no, maybe more, maybe under 2,000, which is so much better than 14,000, isn't it? That's like, what a breath of, I really did breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, literally, I went, oh, that sounds really good. That sounds very doable. And the main thing that I really wanted to do was to build an instrument called a viola d'amore. And I can go back to plan A, which is buy one. eventually when I've got the money. But certainly going and studying at uni for 3 years, I was never going to have that money. And then I was going to have to pay all that money back, 3 times 14,000. I'd be paying that back probably until I died, actually, because I wasn't going to get state funding for that. I was literally going to, get loans to do it, personal loans. So, yeah, this way, I use my hands. I can, it's relevant to my business as well, because I've just got this, this new discovery about printing and sculpting as well, paper mache sculpting. And I'm melting, my heat gun arrived, so I'm melting vinyl records, and I'm making hats with them. So, I desperately want to use my hands for something creative that takes me away from the computer. And I know it's a bit contradictory, isn't it? An online course, part-time. But there are days, 2 days a month, that you go in for, and you draw, or you do this or you do that, and there'll be other things that I can do. And there's an exhibition at the end of the year in the foyer. You only get the foyer. I thought, well, everyone goes to the foyer, don't they? Everyone goes there. So I'm really, I've come round to it. I'm not so disappointed that I can't do my music degree. But I was also thinking about how, I've got lots of degrees already. Well, I've got a BA and a master's and a postgrad diploma. And, it didn't really, none of that paid for itself. None of that really helped financially in my career. It's helped me in terms of my experience levels and, working in my passion, working with my passionate interests, as it were. It's certainly done that. I love film, and because I did film at Edinburgh, and I'm always going to be fascinated with film. But, now that I'm using more sort of dance and hand-drawn on my iPad, and then the time-lapse and all that sort of thing. I mean, I love time-lapse artworks. I love doing those, and I do them over my music. And I find that really exciting, really interesting. But it really brought it home to me that I just want to use my hands, And raw materials, I'd really like to, get a bit mucky with paint, and which, I mean, I do paint anyway. I paint the clothes, don't I? So it's all kind of the same. But the online foundation course will also give me time and opportunity. You meet you meet professional artists. And I mean, it sounds a bit weird because I'm already a professional artist, but it is it's a different medium that I'm going to be working in, because it's much more fine art based. And you meet lots of people, you meet your fellow students, of course, and you get to go to the college, which is just absolutely beautiful. And there are other things that you can do. You can do sort of short courses. And there was this taxidermy course, and I really fancied it. And it was only like 500 quid. And I'm still thinking I could do that in the summer holes. I don't know why I'm drawn to that. But again, to use the skills that you have in other ways. So taxidermy and hat making, for example. And I know it sounds a bit weird, and yeah, I'd probably have to stop the car and get the roadkill. I mean, I think I could be quite creative with all that, and to sculpt using part animal and part brass, and mixed media sculpting. I thought that would be really interesting. And all of these ideas keep coming. It's like crazy bloody ideas, like all over the place, just jumping into my head. And the foundation course will give me the opportunity to sort of explore different things, I think, and to sort of come at the end of the year with a portfolio and a sketchbook of work that I've applied myself to, with guidance from the tutors, and then to go on to the part-time arts degree, which takes 6 years. So by the time I'm 71, I'll have another degree. I think that's pretty bloody excellent. I'm really looking forward to that.